This morning, the New York Times reported that the FBI believes Blackwater mercenaries were unjustified and violating security guidelines when they shot and killed 14 Iraqis in Baghdad in September. But in our third story tonight, the day's other Blackwater news may shed light on how the company got into Iraq and how it gets to stay there. It began at a House hearing about the State Department's ethics watchdog, Inspector General Howard Krongard. His own staff and members of the Justice Department claim he impeded investigations of contractors, including Blackwater. Republicans ripped Democrats for the accusation. Inspector General Krongard responded to the ugly rumor that his brother Buzzy sits on Blackwater's advisory board, meeting this week at a Virginia hotel.
I can tell you very frankly, I am not aware of any financial interest or position he has with respect to Blackwater. It couldn't possibly have affected anything I've done because I don't believe it. And when these ugly rumors started recently, I specifically asked him. I do not believe it is true that he is a member of the advisory board that you stated, and that's something I think I need to say. When these things surfaced, I called him and I asked him directly. He has told me he does not have any involvement. He does not have any financial interest. If you're telling me that he does, absolutely, I would recuse myself.
You will recuse yourself?
Absolutely.
Immediately?
Absolutely.
Mr. Krongard even testified he saw no evidence of his brother's board membership in an email from Blackwater to Buzzy that began, "Dear board member." And then this happened.
During the break, I did contact my brother. I reached him at home. He is not at the hotel, but I learned that he had been at the advisory board meeting yesterday. I had not been aware of that, and I want to state on the record right now that I hereby recuse myself from any matters having to do with Blackwater.
Too late. On March 1st, IG Krongard's office began investigating Blackwater's gun running in Iraq. By June 10th, as this email shows, Blackwater CEO Eric Prince decided to create an advisory board with Brother Buzzy on it. By September 5th, Brother Buzzy had accepted. 11 days later, Blackwater mercenaries killed those Iraqis in Baghdad, and the State Department gave them immunity for anything in their statements. The Justice Department, now impeded by the inability to use those statements, and as of Friday, still waiting for the IG Krongard's help investigating the gun-running charge. Blackwater's CEO, not only a far-right Bush ally, he also got one of the first secret CIA contracts back in 2002, reportedly after having placed a call to the agency's number 3 man at the time, Brother Buzzy Krongard. Brother Buzzy tonight telling TPMmuckraker.com that Prince knew his brother was the IG when he asked Buzzy to join the board. And P.S., Brother Buzzy also says he did tell his other brother all about his membership on the board 2 or 3 weeks ago. Let's turn now to MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff, also Newsweek's senior White House correspondent. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Most of the scandals we wade through here on a regular basis are relatively subtle. This one looks like old-fashioned graft. How does the Bush administration try to wriggle out of this one when it appears to be the definition of that term conflict of interest?
Well, the easy answer for them is to say this is a legal issue and therefore no comment until anything is resolved. And, of course, when it's resolved, then it's on appeal and they can't comment then. The tougher problem here is, what does it say about the Inspector General's investigative abilities that he needed to call his brother, and he hadn't called his brother? I mean, it just doesn't pass the smell test. And moving forward here, this is not only, I mean, it would be funny if it didn't involve the loss of so many civilian lives here. There has to be an appearance of propriety with an Inspector General, and clearly that isn't here.
Howard Krongard also said at the end of this thing that he'd never met President Bush, Mr. Rove, any of the central figures of the kleptocracy. Nobody told him to intervene, to the point where Congressman Issa of California volunteered to bring him in to meet the president. But he failed to complete even one of these many investigations his office was responsible for of Blackwater. Is the problem that we're dealing with perhaps that he did not need to be told that he and others in the administration simply don't believe in the mission of holding private companies accountable for anything?
Well, there is a huge black hole here, and it's been built by design. First of all, the State Department didn't have the capability to do its own work here in protecting its own officials. Secondly, there's clearly a lot of fear inside the State Department. People didn't want to be in Iraq. They still don't want to go to Iraq, which says a huge amount about this administration's commitment to Iraq. That Condi Rice is actually forcing people to go there. But whatever contact the IG had with officials in terms of the politics here, there is a clear public diplomacy need for this administration to get out ahead of this and say this isn't what they represent. They haven't done it yet. How long will it take?
Is that an opportunity that might fall to the new Attorney General, or is that too much to hope for?
Well, listen, we've been assured by people like Senator Schumer, Senator Feinstein, that this is an independent-minded judge who has acted independently on the bench. Now is the time for him to show some chops here and actually prove his independence. He could do it if he wanted to, but, the IG at the State Department is not the ultimate ruler on what is the law of this country, and the Justice Department should do that.
Brother Buzzy would seem to be a poster child for how to improve an administration very quickly. Richard Wolff of Newsweek and MSNBC. As always, Richard, great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.